Hey everyone, welcome back. So, it may feel as though every Pokemon challenge run that can be done has been done, but as far as I know, no one's done something quite like this. A solo run, but specifically a solo run limited to just one move. Today, we're going to see if we can beat Pokemon Crystal with only the move Fire Blast. So what exactly does that mean? Here are the rules. Number 1, we can only use our starter, Cyndaquil, in battle. We are allowed to evolve him, as this is not a Cyndaquil solo run. Number 2, we can only use the move Fire Blast. If we run out of PP in battle and have to use Struggle, we must reset. Number 3, we cannot use any items in battle except held items. Before we begin, let's talk about the move Fire Blast. It's the strongest fire move available in this generation, with a 120 base power, and also has a 10% chance to inflict a burn on the enemy Pokemon. The move is held back by two key drawbacks, an 85% accuracy and only 5 power points, or PP, which determines how many times we can use the move. There are no Pokemon in the game which are completely immune to fire attacks, but here's a quick type chart demonstrating that there are going to be some real challenges with some of the most important trainers in the game. Fire is only resisted by 4 types, but this includes water and dragon types. Many of you may already be dreading this, but 4 of the most difficult trainers in the game include Claire, Lance, Blue, and Red, all of whom have plenty of dragon and water types between them. We've got our work cut out for us. Today's overlay will help us keep track of how these drawbacks are affecting our run in real time, as I'll be keeping track of how many times we use Fire Blast, how many times we hit, and what our current and max PP are at any given point. The counts will be cumulative, so it'll also include moves used during the times that we reset. Instead of filling the screen with every single stat, I've streamlined it to show some of the more critical ones for this particular challenge, namely HP and special attack, which determines how much damage our Fire Blast will be doing. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to the team behind GameHook who made this real-time tracking possible, including Scott's Thoughts and Flame Sage. Links to learn more will be in the description below. We start off by using a GameShark code to get ourselves a perfect DV Cyndaquil, since this challenge will be hard enough, and lock our moveset to only have Fire Blast in the top slot. Even if we learn a new move, the remaining 3 slots will stay empty due to the code that we used. Now it's time to get started. After getting Cyndaquil, our first task is to get the Mystery Egg from Mr. Pokemon, which is pretty straightforward. We fight a few of the wild Pokemon on the way, all of whom go down in one hit. However, we can only defeat 4 before running out of PP. We get the egg in the Pokedex and get ready to fight our rival. Totodile is actually the first Pokemon we face not to die in one hit, but we do get lucky and get a burn. In Generation 2, a burn reduces a Pokemon's health by 1/8 of its max HP each turn. Its attack stat is also cut in half, which may be helpful later in the run. Fire Blast looks like it's going to be a 3-hit KO, but Totodile goes down in 2 hits because of the burn damage. Now that we've shown Professor Elm the egg, it's time to get started on our Pokemon journey for real. While this isn't a minimum battles challenge, we are going to want to avoid as many trainers as possible during certain longer routes, otherwise we'll constantly be going back to the Pokemon Center to restore our PP. We rush past most of the trainers before Violet City, and make our way to the gym as soon as we get there. While we can beat Sprout Tower and gain some valuable levels from roasting the Bellsprout there, I decide to skip it for now. We beat the 2 trainers in Falkner's gym before we get to him. It's a pretty anticlimactic fight as both Pidgey and Pidgeotto go down in 1 Fire Blast each. However, as we go to the area south of Violet City, we start running into one of the bigger issues during this run: spinners. In Gold, Silver, and Crystal, there are a number of trainers who stand in place and spin around. These are major issues for speedrunners, and were also a big hindrance in J-Rose's Minimum Battles Challenge for those who have seen that video. I try to make it past this last trainer right before the Pokemon Center, but I get caught. I have 1 use of Fire Blast left, and it misses against his Wooper. Time to restart. Unfortunately, the last time I saved was before Falkner, so we'll have to fight him again. Actually, the second fight goes very differently. We miss our first Fire Blast and get hit with Mudslap, which does super effective damage and reduces our accuracy. Not a great combination. You'll see that the calculation on the side is taking a little bit of time to catch up, but don't worry, it will catch up. I promise that after 2 more gyms, I figure out how to make the calculations almost immediate, so please forgive the growing pains. Anyway, we get by our second fight with Falkner on our last Fire Blast. We make it down to Union Cave, but there are a number of trainers in here with rock and ground Pokemon, which Cyndaquil is weak against. Most of them are spinners, and we can maneuver our way around them, but I realize there's a Pokemon Center right there and I'd be giving up some pretty valuable experience points, so we fight one at a time, go back and heal, and keep doing that until we make our way through the cave. Once we make it to Azalea Town, we beat down Team Rocket in the Slowpoke well. During this sequence with Team Rocket, our Cyndaquil evolves into Quilava at level 14. Now, it's time to fight the Bug-type gym leader, Bugsy. Similar to before, I try to fight everyone in the gym because the Pokemon Center is right there and we do super effective damage. Each trainer has about 2 to 4 Pokemon, and as you can see, our actual Fire Blast accuracy is just under the 85% probability. So we really do have to go back to the Pokemon Center between each fight. This is a major time suck, but I don't actually know how much because I didn't bother using a timer for this challenge, given that I'm not a big Pokemon YouTuber like J-Rose or Scott's Thoughts or Madribride, so I don't actually have an optimal routing set. In most Pokemon challenge runs, or even normal gameplay, the primary constraint determining whether or not someone goes to the Pokemon Center is usually HP rather than PP. If we think about the concept of PP more broadly, most JRPGs from the 16-bit era were actually structured quite differently from Pokemon. Characters would have a standard attack that they could use whenever, and then have special attacks like magic, which did have a cost, like PP or mana. In Pokemon, every attack has a cost, which fundamentally changes the way that someone plays the game. However, this is never really tested, given that early in the game, most of the moves available are quite generous with their PP, like Tackle, which has 35. Having to worry about PP the entire time is a whole different way of playing the game. Anyway, on to Bugsy. He's got a Metapod, Kakuna, and Scyther, all of which are one-hit KOs. Thankfully, we only miss once and get our second badge. We heal up and fight Rival 2 before we enter the Ilex Forest. The Rival now has 3 Pokemon, adding a Zubat and Ghastly to his Totodile, which is now evolved into a Croconaw. Ghastly goes down right away, but Croconaw ends up being a 3-hit KO despite being burned. Once again, we barely make it through a major fight. In the Ilex Forest, we save the Farfetch and get a Charcoal as one of the rewards. We could have bought one from the mart, but it's quite expensive and it's not like we needed it for Bugsy. Holding a Charcoal boosts the damage done by Fire-type moves by 10%, which will likely make a meaningful difference throughout the run, and is probably going to be the item we hold onto for most of the major battles. In the forest, we also pick up an Ether. You can't buy PP restoring items in the marts in Pokemon games, so these are extremely valuable because there's such a limited number of them. In typical Pokemon solo runs, these are usually saved for the Pokemon League, but we run out of PP so quickly that we might need them in other spots that we don't anticipate. On the other side of the Ilex Forest, there are a number of trainers, including some spinners, several of which have multiple Pokemon. We do our best to avoid them, and weave our way through trainers to Goldenrod, where we go straight to facing Whitney. We take advantage of the trainers in her gym and our proximity to healing, and beat everyone before fighting her. Even using the strongest fire move in the game, Whitney does give us reason to be nervous. Clefairy goes down in one hit, but Miltank outspeeds us and uses a super effective rollout. The damage of rollout increases with every consecutive hit, so after Miltank survives a Fire Blast, we get brought down to yellow health. If we miss, we lose and it will probably have to reset. Thankfully, we don't, so it's time to move on. There are a lot of trainers between Goldenrod and Ecruteak, and I do my best to balance managing PP, taking advantage of valuable experience, and running back and forth between the Pokemon Center to heal. When we get to Ecruteak, we aren't able to go to the gym until we meet the legendary beasts in the Burnt Tower. We meet our rival there and fight him with our level 24 Quilava. Now he's got 4 Pokemon, having added a Magnemite to his team. His Ghastly is a Haunter now, but it's still a one-hit KO. Croconaw comes out second and is a 3-hit KO, using up 4 PP. This means that even if we hit our last Fire Blast, we won't have enough PP to finish him off. We'll have to train a little bit, so I make my way over to fight the 5 Evolution trainers, get the HM for Surf, and take care of a number of trainers to the south and west of Ecruteak. We come back at level 27, and Croconaw is just barely a 2-hit KO now. Once we awaken the legendary beasts, we get to fight Morty, who is, unsurprisingly, a pretty easy gym leader. Given that he's got 4 Pokemon, we can even afford to miss one and still come out victorious. This is another easy battle, but I promise we are going to be facing some very difficult challenges soon. We make our way through to Olivine City, go up to the lighthouse, grab an Ether on the way, and make our way to Cianwood by surfing. I do my best to avoid the trainers on this route since they're all water types that resist Fire Blast and can hit back with super effective damage. Once we get to Cianwood, we fight Yucine and then go straight to the gym. Once again, we fight everyone in the gym to rack up experience points, and I think we're ready for Chuck. Primeape is an easy one-shot, so it's just Poliwrath that we need to worry about. We're used to one-shotting everything, but this time we do just over a third of damage and critical hit Surf takes us down in a single hit. So now we're on the other side of a one-shot. But that's a fluke, right? We can probably survive if he doesn't get a crit, so let's try that again. This time, Poliwrath doesn't decide to use Surf and instead puts us to sleep with Hypnosis and takes us down with 2 Surfs. In our victorious battle, Chuck goes for Hypnosis again, but this time misses, allowing us to get our 3 hits in and we win. We get the medicine for Ampharos at the lighthouse and it's time to fight Jasmine. She specializes in steel types, meaning that this should be another straightforward win. She brings out her Magnemite, which we miss. Not a big deal. Now we're gonna one-shot. Oh, Magnemite uses Thunder Wave and we're paralyzed. Now he uses Supersonic and we're confused. We continue to hit ourselves in confusion and get paralyzed for what feels like a million turns in a row and go down to Jasmine's first Pokemon without doing any damage. Oh well, I guess we can just try that again. This time we actually hit and everything goes down immediately as we'd expect. Now we move on to Mahogany, go to the Lake of Rage, take care of the Red Gyarados, and then work with Lance to take down the secret headquarters. The gimmick of this area is that if we walk in front of a statue, we have to fight 2 Team Rocket grunts in a row, which is more of a problem than it sounds. They have 2 and 3 Pokemon respectively, meaning that we can't miss at all or we have to reset. However, now that we have Surf, we can access our first PP up of the game, which is on a secluded island in Violet City. We fly over, grab the PP up, and can finally, in theory, defeat a trainer with 6 Pokemon. We get back to Mahogany, defeat the grunts, and thankfully, they don't show up in front of the statues after we've already taken care of that particular statue. We make our way to the Team Rocket HQ, fight a ton of trainers, constantly go back and forth to get healed, but take care of the last Electrode with our final PP. We move on to fight every trainer in Price's gym in order to take advantage of our super effective damage and the fact that the Pokemon Center is right there. Price himself has a Seel, Dugong, and Piloswine. Seel is actually a water type which resists Fire Blast, and Dugong is water and ice, making Fire Blast neutral against it, but they both go down in a single Fire Blast each given the huge level difference. We're at level 41 and they're in the high 20s, but I am far from the first person to talk about Johto's abysmal level scaling and pacing. Now it's time for the last Team Rocket sequence at the radio tower. There are a ton of trainers here, including several spinners that we struggle to avoid. I try to save as frequently as possible to reduce how much I need to redo whenever I have to reset. But believe it or not, this actually backfires for us. I get to the radio tower and defeat a certain grunt, unlocking the path to the next floor, but I accidentally save as soon as I get there. I didn't notice that I didn't have any PP, meaning that I couldn't advance, but I also couldn't go back to the Pokemon Center because there was a Team Rocket scientist blocking the way. I begrudgingly use an Ether, restoring my PP, and I really hope that that mistake doesn't have long-term consequences. We get the basement key and it's time for our next rival fight. Golbat goes down in one hit as expected, but even Feraligatr is becoming less of a threat, as we do roughly 80 damage to it. The remaining 3 Pokemon are all one-hit KOs, but that PP up made a major difference in this battle, because we really needed all 6 uses of Fire Blast in order to make it through. The remainder of the Team Rocket scenario is quite easy, aside from having to backtrack literally every 1 or 2 battles depending on how many Pokemon the opposing trainer had. In the basement, we also get an Amulet Coin, which doubles the amount of money that we get from trainer battles. We're going to want to rack up as much money as possible so that we can go to Goldenrod's department store and buy Calcium, which boosts our special attack. We'll talk about why that's important soon. We finish off the Team Rocket radio tower scenario and make our way through to Ice Cave, where we find our second PP up, bringing our total Fire Blast PP to 7. Once we reach Blackthorn City, we fight every trainer in Claire's gym to rack up experience. At level 50, we decide to give Claire a shot. Dragon is resistant to fire, and our first Fire Blast does not one-hit KO Dragonair, and she's got 2 more of those. That implies that even if we don't miss, it'll take 6 PP to take down the Dragonair alone. However, she brings out her Kingdra second, which double resists Fire Blast due to its water dragon typing. We do just about a quarter damage and fall to super effective Surfs. We are not ready to fight Claire. If Claire is going like this, we definitely aren't going to be ready for Lance, who has 3 Dragonites, including one at level 50. It's time for me to grind, and this is probably a good time to talk about stat experience. While we can just level up, levels alone may not be enough. Pokemon stats are driven by 4 major factors in Generation 2. Number 1 is base stats, which are the same for every Pokemon in the species. Number 2 are DVs, which are unique to each individual Pokemon. Number 3 is stat experience, which was later turned into effort values or EVs. And number 4 is in-battle modifiers, such as attacks like Sword Stance or badge boosts. If you're familiar with the Pokemon Challenge Run world on YouTube, you're probably familiar with the badge boost glitch from Generation 1. Now that we've gotten the Glacier badge from Pryce, our special attack and special defense are boosted by 12.5%, which I'm going to start displaying on the screen overlay shortly. While we actually have a maximum DV Typhlosion, we can still increase our stats through stat experience. Stat experience is gained by defeating Pokemon and is calculated based on the base stats of the Pokemon we defeat. At level 100, the difference between a fully trained Pokemon stat and a completely untrained one is about 64 points. To illustrate, that's the difference between a level 100 Typhlosion's Fire Blast being a guaranteed 3-hit KO against Mew versus being a 4-hit KO. With such low PP, every hit counts, and we're going to want to max out at least our special attack. The first thing we do is buy as much calcium as possible, meaning we fight a bunch of trainers and sell off nuggets and everything else that we picked up along the way. One of the easier things for us to do is also to beat up a bunch of unknown at the Ruins of Alph, as they're level 5, have a base special of 72, and aren't too far from a Pokemon Center. I also looked into some other areas to grind Pokemon, but very few of them had a good combination of Pokemon with high special attack, good experience yields, ease of destruction, and convenience. I get back to Claire at level 54. Now we're finally one-hit KOing Dragonair. She has 3 of them that are identical, so hopefully that's not a range and it can be replicated with the other 2. But first, we need to get past Kingdra. We're still barely doing anything to it, but to make things worse, she uses Smokescreen, reducing our already imperfect accuracy. But we get a hit in and even burn it, and it looks like we might actually make it past Kingdra with enough PP to potentially defeat the other 2 Dragonair. But Claire dashes our hopes and dreams with the Hyper Potion, and then takes us down with super effective Surfs. Maybe that was a bit of a fluke, since our burn could have put Kingdra into healing range, so I try it again. Dragonair, 1-hit KO. Fire Blast miss? Not that great. Critical hit? I'll take it. We finally defeat Kingdra, and we've got 3 PP to defeat 2 more Dragonair. And we miss, and this is where the pain begins, with us getting paralyzed from Thunder Wave and missing another Fire Blast. I try again, but it seems like the only reason we had a chance at all was because of the great critical hit luck that we got against Kingdra. I decide to continue training at a few more random spots, including just south of Blackthorn. We even run into Raikou, which at level 40 nets us some great experience points and special stat experience yields. I also do a little leveling up to the west of Ecruteak, because we've got some decently leveled Magnemite, which give us pretty good stat experience and experience points. I keep trying Claire every few levels, but it's not until level 59 that we finally break through. In our winning battle, Dragonair 1 goes down in 1 hit as per usual. Against Kingdra, we're still doing just under half damage, which is not ideal, but we get a critical hit that inflicts a burn and take Kingdra down. We have 2 PP left against the remaining Dragonair, and we don't miss this time. In a really cruel twist of RNG, we get crits against both of the Dragonairs when we really could have used them against Kingdra several levels before. Now that we've got 8 badges, we're on our way to fight the Pokemon League. For those of you who are wondering, the maximum PP that Fire Blast can have is 8, but we only have access to 2 PP ups in Johto, so we'll be going into the Pokemon League with 7 total PP. I make sure to fight every Pokemon trainer along the way, especially those on the route just below Victory Road, where there's a house with a healing spot. Some of these trainers have great Pokemon for stat experience drops, including this cool trainer with multiple Starmies. Once we defeat everyone, it's time to get through Victory Road and fight our rival. Unfortunately, this is not a particularly eventful battle. Sneasel goes down in 1 hit, and even Feraligator's resistance isn't enough when it's only at level 38. We're at level 63 and about to face a whole lot of potential roadblocks in the Elite Four and the Champion. Let's find out how we do. I can't just use the Elite Four to train because I have a limited number of PP restoring items, and I'd be soft locked from completing the challenge if I used them all up during my practice runs. I am not going to save between battles because it could potentially leave me stuck. Will Xatu goes down quickly, but Slowbro survives on a sliver of health. It uses Amnesia, which could be problematic if we missed and it had a chance to set up. We're able to get by Slowbro and a few more of Will's Pokemon, but we miss and run out against his last Pokemon, Jinx. Time to reset. I want to train up a little bit so that Slowbro becomes a one-hit KO. I grind up to level 65 in the area just south of Victory Road and try the Elite Four again. We start off with the same result against Xatu, and Slowbro goes down in one hit, but it's a critical hit, and everything else goes down in a single hit as expected. Now it's time for Koga. Believe it or not, I'm actually really worried about this battle. Several of his Pokemon have moves like Double Team and Protect, which can force us to miss and destroy our valuable PP. We don't see any of that in this battle since everything goes down in one hit. We miss against Venomoth, which gets a Toxic in, but it goes down easily, and after we heal up, it's time to face Bruno. Bruno isn't even worth commenting about since just like Koga, it's just a matter of whether or not we get unlucky with our accuracy. In this fight, we don't, and we make it to Karen. Umbreon is a defensive tank, but we take it down in one hit, which is a relief. Everything on Karen's team seems to be going down, which is great, and we should be moving on to Lance. Well, it looks like Houndoom survives with a decent chunk of health. Karen uses a max potion, and we miss our next Fire Blast, meaning that we're out of PP and we won't have enough to finish her off. Another reset. Houndoom did have enough HP left that it definitely wasn't a range, so it's time to grind. After grinding another 2 levels and reaching 67, I decide to try again. Even though we got past Will with relative ease last time, he's not entirely free. This time, we miss our Fire Blast against Slowbro, allowing him to set up Amnesia, which increases his special defense by 2 stages. Using up 3 PP to take down Slowbro means that we won't have enough to take down the rest of his team, and we reset. The next fight, we hit everything, but run into a roadblock with Koga. Fortress uses Protect and we miss against Crobat, allowing it to use Double Team to increase its evasion and avoid our Fire Blast. Another reset. We keep trying the Elite Four until we string enough hits together in a row. Bruno is similarly easy and we make our way back to Karen. This time, Houndoom hangs on with the slightest slivers of health, but we have enough PP to finish her off and we make it to the champion Lance. This is the battle that I've been dreading the entire run, since literally every single one of Lance's Pokemon resists Fire Blast. Lance leads off with Gyarados, and we do about 75% damage. But Gyarados basically always uses Rain Dance on turn 1. One of the effects of having rain on the field is that damage from fire moves is cut in half, reducing our damage output even further. We take down Gyarados with the next hit, but then Aerodactyl comes out, and we barely do 60% damage to it. Thankfully, it's a 2-hit KO and we're moving on to Dragonite number 1. While we definitely don't have the PP to win, we can hopefully get some data points by figuring out how much damage we do. We do about 40% to Dragonite, and then take it down once the rain stops falling. The second Dragonite takes roughly 80% damage once we're back to full strength, but by this point, we're paralyzed and out of PP. There's almost no way that we'd be able to defeat Lance at this level. I go back to Victory Road and keep grinding. The Pokemon here are mostly rock types with strong HP, attack, and defense stats, which is not what we're looking for from a stat experience perspective, so I mix it up by going to the Ruins of Alph and fighting Unknown. I go back and try the Elite Four every couple of levels, but at level 78, we finally defeat Gyarados in one shot, which is a huge relief because it can't put up rain. Aerodactyl similarly goes down right away, but I believe we would have one-shot it the first time if rain wasn't up. Here comes the real test. Dragonite 1 goes down in one hit, and it looks like it's not a range because we've got the same thing going on with Dragonite 2. We've got 2 Pokemon left with 3 PP for Fire Blast. Charizard goes down in one hit, and all that's left between us and the championship is Lance's last Dragonite at level 50. We hit with Fire Blast and he survives with a sliver of health. He then proceeds to use Safeguard, which protects Dragonite from status effects. We've got 1 use of Fire Blast left, but Lance uses a full restore, so we have to hope that Fire Blast is a range. Unfortunately, we basically do the exact same amount of damage that we did before, and Dragonite still has a sliver remaining. If we could get a burn, we would have won, but Safeguard actually prevents that. Well played, Lance. Well played. That was really heartbreaking, but at least we know now that victory is within reach. I grind up to level 80 and go back to Lance. I've basically been grinding since we reached Claire, and I am ready for this to be over, so hopefully this is the one. Stepping up to the batter's box, we've got Gyarados, and you're out. Aerodactyl, you're out of time. Dragonite 1, Back to the bench. Dragonite 2, you can join him. Charizard, you're not even a real dragon yet. And Dragonite 3 goes down in one hit. It is a critical hit, but based on how much damage we were doing earlier, I really don't think it matters. Who cares? We're the champions. But as you all know, there's a whole new region for us to tackle now. We move on to Kanto and start taking apart the gyms here. We land in Vermilion and fight Lieutenant Surge, who has 5 Pokemon that can't really do anything to us. We just need to hit 5 of our 7 Fire Blasts, or a 71% hit rate, and we've got badge number 9. Sabrina and Saffron has 3 Pokemon, all of which go down in one hit. I'm not going to commentate on all of the gym leaders in Kanto since most of them are pretty uneventful, so I'm just going to talk over the footage for a second. There are a few errands and plot scenarios that we have to do, including the Cerulean Power Plant machine part retrieval. We also grab another PP up, bringing our total to the maximum 8 PP for Fire Blast. As a quick aside, this is my first time playing this game since I was 8 years old. Pokemon Crystal was actually my first Pokemon game, which I got as a gift and basically played all the time until I brought it to school one day and it was stolen by a kid in my class. Playing through the game now, I am shocked at how much I remember from that playthrough over 20 years ago, and I even recognize the places that I got stuck and confused back in the day. Back to the challenge, we make short work of even Brock and Misty, both of whom have full teams that resist Fire Blast, including Brock's Kabutops and Omastar, which both double resist Fire Blast like Kingdra. The second last gym leader is Blaine, and this is a significant battle for one reason. We can finally get the type badge boost. In Generation 2 only, you also get a 12.5% boost when using moves of a certain type once you beat that type's gym leader. I'll be updating the overlay to show an illustrative base power. Our special attack now includes our max DVs, near max stat experience, and our 12.5% special attack badge boost in battle. And the Fire Blast base power now includes the 10% boost from Charcoal and the 12.5% boost from the Fire type badge boost. We're at level 86 and it's time to fight Blue. He leads off with Pidgeotto, who unsurprisingly goes down in one hit along with Rhydon. But the real surprise is when he brings out Gyarados, which survives on red health and then uses our favorite move, Rain Dance. Blue starts using full restores, which stalls out our PP since we're doing half damage in the rain. We can take down Gyarados, but he still has 3 Pokemon remaining. It's back to the grind for us. I go back to Victory Road as well as fight a number of trainers that I've missed up until this point, including the final rival battle in Mount Moon. I feel like very few to no challenge runs ever highlight this fight because it's optional, so I honestly forgot it existed until I was trying to figure out where I could go to get some extra experience. It's not an eventful fight since everything goes down in one hit, but I did enjoy seeing the growth that our rival went through. At level 89, we give Blue another shot. Against Pidgeotto, we miss, which may be a death sentence already because we may not have enough PP to beat everything. I just want to know if we can one-shot Gyarados, so I keep going instead of reset. And the moment of truth, we don't one-shot Gyarados, but we do get the burn. Gyarados gets off a Rain Dance, but it goes down at the end of the turn due to the burn damage. 4 PP and 3 Pokemon left. Alakazam goes down in one hit despite the half damage from the rain. And next is Arcanine, which we do 60% against. It goes down in 2 hits. Finally, we have Executor, which we're super effective against, and take down despite the rain. Now, it's time for the final challenge. I don't know if it's possible. Red has 6 Pokemon, all of which are very highly leveled, including Charizard and Blastoise, who resist Fire Blast, and Snorlax, who has a very high special defense stat. Fire Blast has gotten us to Red at level 90. Now we just need 6 more KOs and we win. First up is Pikachu. We miss, but we take it down on the next hit. Espeon's a one-hit KO as well. Now comes out Blastoise, which takes about 2/3 damage from Fire Blast and survives on yellow health, only to use our favorite move, Rain Dance. Blastoise goes down in 3 hits due to the rain, and that's without Red even bothering to heal. Next comes out Snorlax. It's still raining, so we do about 40% damage, but then Snorlax uses Amnesia to boost its special defense by an additional 2 stages. We're out of PP and there's so much left to go. I hate to say it, but there's no way we can win at this level. Time to get back to grinding. We're now at maximum stat experience in our special attack, so I just focus on maximum experience yields. At level 100, we have built the strongest Typhlosion that we can possibly have in Crystal. Time to go fight Red. Pikachu and Espeon still go down in one hit, but Blastoise is surviving on about 25% health remaining. It's enough time for him to use Rain Dance, effectively ruining all of our plans. Even though we're doing a bit more damage, it's almost a carbon copy of our first fight. We can take down Blastoise, but Snorlax can survive due to Rain Dance, use Amnesia, and continue to tank a bunch of hits. We bring Snorlax down to a sliver, but we run out of PP. I try this fight again and again and again, and always run into a different issue. If we miss against anything, it's an automatic restart because there's no way to win. Against Snorlax, we got lucky once with the critical hit, but then we missed and he recovered it all back using Rest. Even in one battle when we burnt Snorlax, it wasn't a guaranteed 2-hit KO, since he used Body Slam and paralyzed us, so we couldn't stop him from using Rest and healing up to full HP again. I did this fight dozens of times, since there wasn't really any other strategy I could think of. During one of our fights, we get a critical hit against Snorlax and defeat it, finally allowing us to see Charizard with 2 PP left. However, the rain was still up and we only did 40 damage to it. After the rain went away, we finished off Charizard, but we didn't have any PP left for Red's last Pokemon, Venusaur. Several attempts later, we achieve a similar result where we get a critical hit against Snorlax, defeat Charizard with our last Fire Blast, and have nothing left for Venusaur. After doing this for about an hour in real time, playing at 4 to 6 times speed, I try and go back to the drawing board. What other items can we use? There's the Scope Lens, which increases critical hit ratio, and that would be extremely useful if we could get critical hits more consistently against Blastoise and Snorlax. There's also the King's Rock, since flinches could also be helpful. The downside is that the Scope Lens can only be acquired via Mystery Gift with a 0.2% chance, and the King's Rock flinch only applies to specific moves, and Fire Blast didn't make the cut. The only real option is for us to get the perfect battle. In theory, beating Red should be mathematically possible. Super low probability, but possible nonetheless. After dozens of tries against Red, we finally get the perfect battle. Pikachu and Espeon go down in one hit, and we finally get the piece that we were looking for, a critical hit against Blastoise. Snorlax is up next, but there's no rain and he survives on a sliver. Red doesn't use any items, and we don't miss Fire Blast this time. We've got Charizard and Venusaur left with 3 PP of Fire Blast. Charizard takes about 90% damage from Fire Blast, but he survives and we finish him off. Finally, we get to Venusaur for the 3rd time, but it's our first time with the use of Fire Blast left. After nearly 2,200 Fire Blasts, dozens of resets, and over 300 visits to the Pokemon Center, we have beaten Pokemon Crystal using only Fire Blast. I know that this is a departure from the Mega Man Battle Network stuff that I've been posting, but don't worry, there will still be a lot more of that on the way, but I hope you all enjoyed the run, and thank you so much for the love and support. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.